If you're wondering what is it like in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, in this week's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my experience traveling through there as well as some tips. And don't we all want to know the prices? Coming up. And if you're new here, whoop, whoop, I'm Christine with Where in the World to See Out, and I make travel videos every week to help you get up, get out, and go travel. So if you like to travel, consider subscribing. Let's start with where is Addis Ababa and how do you get in? Addis Ababa is located in the center of Ethiopia, and the main airport for getting in is Bul Airport. When I flew in January 2021, my one-way flight from Florida was $750. And on average, these flights are around 23 hours. You can find direct flights from Washington, D.C., and you can even find flights as cheap as $750 round trip. So that's one thing to look at if you're considering traveling here from the States. And when you come in, it does require a visa. I paid $52 for my visa, and you can do it online. The $52 visa allows you to come in for 30 days. They also have an option for a 90-day visa. One thing that really surprised me is how big Addis Ababa is. It's really large and it's really spread out. In terms of getting around, there's taxis everywhere, but that requires needing to speak the local language as well as being really good at haggling with prices. I suggest going to get a local SIM card, which can be around $2. I paid around $10 for a week's worth of data, and downloading the Ride app. And it's similar to Uber, and you can actually get English-speaking drivers to come pick you up and take you to different locations. On average, a 10 to 15 minute ride with gratuity normally costs me around $2. So given how congested the city is, I don't recommend you drive a car unless you have to for weird circumstances. But another thing to know about the congestion is that the pollution is pretty bad. So if your allergies are as bad as mine are, just something to look out for. And also note that there's not a lot of greenery in the city. All right, let's talk about food, because food in Addis was a phenomenal experience for me, which, by the way, if you're enjoying this video, cheers that like button and consider subscribing. And if you've traveled to Addis or you have tips, please add them below. I was only there for 10 days and would love to hear some of your tips. Food in Addis is both super affordable and super delicious, and get ready to eat with your hands because that's what the culture is all about. I was able to eat at Union, which is such a beautiful space and a great place for great drinks, cocktails, and wine. But one thing that was interesting to me about drinking in Addis is that when you buy bottles of liquor, whether you're out at a restaurant or out at a nightclub, you can buy it at the half size, which is really phenomenal and a great way to save money depending on how many people you have in your party that are drinking. But one thing to note is I actually stuck to wine, even though Ethiopian wine wasn't my favorite, because a lot of the alcohol, whether it's happening on the distribution side or on the bar restaurant side, is often not real. So the saying about people getting some of the craziest hangovers of their life in Addis comes from that problem. But let's dig in and get our hands dirty. One of my favorite things to eat was injera, and check out this meal. So did I just put it straight on top? Oh, like that. Okay. Oh, you like lay down carpets and stuff. There were so many amazing places that people recommended to me. Make sure you check the description below for other places that I wasn't able to check out while I was there. Let's talk about one thing that surprised me about Addis Ababa, and that was the weather. I was surprised that year-round it actually stays pretty consistent, and you'll see highs in the 70s and lows in the 40s and 50s pretty much year-round. And so needing a coat while you're there is actually something I didn't anticipate. All right, let's talk about where to stay in Addis Ababa, which is something that surprised me a little bit because we've learned that taxis are pretty inexpensive, food is really affordable, but hotels can be fairly expensive relative to everything else. And so I considered a lot of properties while I was there. I considered the Sheraton, which in January 2021 was around $250 a night. I also considered the newly built Raddison Blu hotel, which was around $99 a night. I decided to stay at the Hilton Addis Ababa, which I totally loved. Full video in the description below, but let's do a quick tour of what that looked like. Let's talk about what there is to do in Addis Ababa. If I could leave you with 2 recommendations that everybody suggested to me, first would be to go to Entoto Park to go hiking and to check out the newly opened restaurant section of it, and also to catch amazing views. And the second would be to go to Unity Park and do the VIP tour. A lot of the hotels I mentioned are located near there. And as a side note, if you're trying to travel internationally in 2021, I suggest watching the video in the description below to help you plan your trip. Because while I was in Addis, I was supposed to go to Cape Town, the borders closed, and I was trying to reroute myself and navigate this new travel landscape. So don't make the mistakes that I did and consider watching that video if you're traveling internationally in 2021. Oh, and a few more tips on things to do. Make sure you check the description below, because while I was on my 5-day biking and camping in Ethiopia trip, I got a ton of suggestions from a lot of expats that live in Addis, and I put them all there for you. A few other travel tips to be aware of. One is that the power actually goes out pretty frequently, and during my trip there, the power was out consistently for 3 full days. So that's just something to be aware of, as well as a lack of connection. Depending on where you are in the city, and again, it's a pretty spread out and large city, you can get really bad coverage, even if you have a SIM card, even if you have Wi-Fi. So just something to be aware of while you're out there if you're trying to stay connected. Let's talk about safety, because this is something that I get asked about a lot. And if you have tips or suggestions around safety in Addis, please add to the conversation below, because I'm only speaking from my experience. I spent a lot of time talking to people in Addis about how they felt about safety, because it's one of the things that, to be honest, I was really afraid of. And check out the next video in which I talk openly about my fears that I had while traveling in Addis. But for the most part, most people feel very safe there, although most of them, to be honest, have guards that protect their homes and the places that they live. While I was traveling there, 2 things I got used to was seeing checkpoints just about everywhere in which cars would be stopped and checked, or another thing I got used to are things like every time I would enter and exit the Hilton, the cars are checked, the trunks are checked, and then you're going through a security checkpoint to enter the hotel, and searches are pretty common out there. On that note, let's talk about something I loved in Addis Ababa, which is the coffee culture. It's been said that coffee originated in Ethiopia, and they take their coffee seriously. It's a phenomenal thing to watch them prepare the coffee, serve the coffee, and there's a whole culture around it. And a lot of people ask me, is it as strong as it looks? It is. It is insanely strong, and it is insanely delicious. So don't miss out on drinking tons of coffee while you're out there. And you just need a little bit. Speaking of things I loved riding a bike through Ethiopia. So make sure you check out those videos, as well as my video about what I was scared about in Addis Ababa. And I'll see ya in the next adventure. Ciao.